Hello, and welcome to BrushMyQuant channel. If you wish to receive regular updates from us, then consider subscribing to the channel by clicking on the subscribe icon to the right bottom of your screen. In this video, we'll be talking about probability and how to find probability when you're tossing one coin, two coin, or three coins. So let's get started with today's video on probability. So this is what we are going to discuss today. We'll talk about what is probability of an event, and then we'll run through how to find probability when we are tossing one coin, two coins, or three coins. So let's start with the definition of probability of an event. Now, what is probability of an event? Probability of an event is the likelihood of occurrence of that event. Now, what does that mean? So let's say we have an event E and we need to find the probability of that event happening. So we denote that probability by P of E, and P of E is nothing but number of successful outcomes divided by total number of outcomes. Now let's understand this by taking an example of tossing one coin. So when we are tossing one coin, how many outcomes are possible? So there are a total of two outcomes, and the two outcomes are nothing but you can either get a head or you can get a tail, right? So there are two outcomes. Now, how do we find probability of getting a head? Now, probability of getting a head is nothing but number of successful outcomes, which is 1 out of total number of outcomes, which is nothing but 2 in this case. So probability of getting a head is nothing but 1 divided by 2. Similarly, probability of getting a tail is equal to number of successful outcomes, which is 1 divided by total number of outcomes, which is 2. You will also note that probability of head plus probability of tail is equal to 1 because total probability in all the cases will always be equal to 1. Now let's see what happens if instead of tossing one coin, we are tossing two coins. So if we are tossing two coins, then in total, we will have 4 outcomes. And what are those outcomes? So you can get head in the first toss and you can get head in the second toss also. You can get a head in the first toss and tail in the second toss. You can get a tail in the first toss and head in the second toss, or you can get tail in both the cases, right? So you'll have 4 such outcomes. Now, what is the probability of getting 0 head? Out of all of these 4 outcomes, there is only one case in which we don't have any head, right? So number of successful outcomes becomes 1 and total number of outcomes become 4. So probability of getting 0 head is equal to 1 by 4. Now, what is the probability of getting 1 head? So we have 2 cases in which we have 1 head each. So probability of getting 1 head becomes 2 divided by 4 or nothing but 1 divided by 2. Now, what is the probability of getting 2 heads? Again, we have only one case in which we have 2 heads. So probability of getting 2 heads becomes 1 divided by 4. Now, how do we find probability of at least 1 head? Now, what does at least means? It means that getting 1 head or more than 1 head, which is nothing but probability of getting 1 head or probability of getting more than 1 head, right? So which will be nothing but 2 divided by 4 plus 1 divided by 4 is equal to 3 divided by 4. You will also notice that probability of at least 1 head is also equal to 1 minus probability of getting 0 head, which is nothing but 3 by 4. Now let's see what happens if we try to find probability of 0 tail. Again, we have only one case in which we are getting 0 tail, where we are getting both the heads. So probability of getting 0 tail becomes 1 by 4. Similarly, probability of 1 tail becomes 2 by 4 because there are 2 such cases. Probability of getting 2 tail will be 1 by 4. And probability of getting at least 1 tail will be nothing but 1 minus probability of getting 0 tail will be nothing but 1 minus 1 by 4, which is 3 by 4. Now let's see what happens if you're tossing 3 coins. So if you're tossing 3 coins, total number of outcomes becomes 8. And you would have noticed is this is nothing but 2 raised to 3. So if you're tossing n coins, then total number of outcomes will become 2 raised to n. Now what are those outcomes? So in order to find the outcomes, let's try to draw a tree which will help us identify those outcomes very easily. So in the first toss, you can get either a head or a tail. Again, in the first toss, when you got a head, in the second toss, you would have got either a head or a tail. And similarly, at each and every stage, you will get either a head or a tail. Right? So let's quickly go ahead and finish the tree. So this is how our tree looks like. So what are those 8 outcomes? So you can get a head, head or head when you read like this. You can get a head, head or tail when you read like this. You can get head, tail, head. You can get head, tail, tail. You can get tail, head, head. You can get tail, head, tail. You can get tail, tail, head, or you can get a tail, tail, tail. So these are those 8 outcomes. Now let's see if we try to find out different types of probabilities, then how do we get those numbers? So if we have to find probability of 0 head, that means all the 3 outcomes will give us a tail. And we know that there is only one such outcome. So probability of getting a 0 head becomes 1 divided by 8. Probability of getting 1 head will be nothing but this outcome, and this outcome. So 3 divided by 8. Probability of getting 2 heads will be nothing but this outcome, and this one, which will be nothing but 3 by 8. Probability of getting 3 heads will be nothing but only one outcome. So this is nothing but 1 divided by 8. And probability of getting at least 1 head will be nothing but 1 minus probability of 0 head, which will be 1 minus 1 by 8, or nothing but 7 by 8. Probability of at least 2 head. In this case, we can directly add it up because we know at least 2 heads means 2 heads or 3 heads, which is nothing but 3 by 8 plus 1 by 8, which is nothing but 4 by 8. Now let's see the same thing for the tail side. So probability of getting 0 tail is nothing but all 3 heads. So this will be nothing but 1 by 8. Probability of getting 1 tail is this outcome, and this outcome. So 3 by 8. Probability of getting 2 tail is this outcome, and this outcome. So 3 by 8. Probability of getting 3 tail is only one single outcome, so 1 by 8. Probability of getting at least 1 tail is nothing but 1 minus probability of 0 tail will be nothing but 1 minus 1 by 8, or 7 by 8. And probability of getting at least 2 head is this outcome plus this outcome. So 3 by 8 plus 1 by 8, which is 4 by 8, which is equal to 1 by 2. I hope you were able to understand how to find probability and deal with it when we are tossing a coin once, twice, or 3 times. If you did, please go ahead and like the video, provide your valuable comments, share the video with your friends, and do consider subscribing to the channel by clicking on the subscribe icon to the right bottom of your screen. Thank you for your time.